Hello everybody, this is Purge, bringing you guys a replay commentary. This is a Vengeful Spirit 5 position game that I played yesterday off stream. To talk about Venge as a hero, she's one of my most played. I like playing her a lot, and that's because, I don't know, just she kind of has a mix of really fun abilities, and I have a bunch of really expensive cosmetics for her, which is basically the main driver. But effectively, Venge as a hero has always been one of my favorites. I haven't liked her the last half year or something like that. After they changed her passive was very, became like a primary stat and attack range passive, which naturally is going to increase your team's win rate a lot because just standing near your teams is going to make you really effective. But thinking about her as a support, she struggles a little bit in lane. She's not the best trader. Her base damage is pretty low. I'm at 48 average with 3 Ironwood branches, for example. So that would be about 45 average otherwise. Her base movement speed's pretty low at 290. With that said, her stacking's excellent. 3.8 agility gain and 2.6 strength gain are really, really good. So she definitely has really good stack gains here. Laning against a Slardar and a Hoodwink, which is a little scary. But basically, when I was thinking about Venge yesterday, her win rate's in the trash right now. It's really bad. It's like about 48% win rate. So she's actually one of the weaker heroes, definitely weaker supports in this patch right now. Some people are trying to play core, which is maybe part of the struggle. But there was one buff that stuck out to me on Venge, and that was the buff to damage on Wave of Terror. Wave of Terror does 70 magic damage. It's a 16-second cooldown, which is pretty long. And it also costs 25 mana. So it's a very mana inexpensive spell, basically. Like, I've cast Wave of Terror twice now, and you can barely tell that my mana pool is gone. This is a huge advantage. Most spells do approximately 75 to 100 damage with 1 skill point. So the fact that this does 70 damage with 1 skill point is really good. The damage just got buffed by 10 at all levels. And what's really crucial about this is 2 things. Number 1, it's a pretty good trading ability. Even though my damage is not very high and the Hoodwink has more damage than I do, what's crucial is that when I do hit her with Wave of Terror, I'm doing 70 damage, and I'm also lowering her armor by 3, which is going to increase my damage by about 15%, basically. So that means trading hits with my opponents is going to be more favorable to me, even though my stats are a little bit weak, because I've used Wave of Terror. Another cool thing is that 70 damage is getting close to the point where you can last hit creeps without too much difficulty. If it's 60 damage, most heroes have approximately like mid-50s damage in the laning stage. Always going to be happy to trade here, except for when both heroes are here. Now I just need to run to safety. This is a little bit scary, but with Slardar likely running away, I'm not too afraid to trade. But basically, because most heroes can basically contest last hits with about mid-50s damage. So if this only does 60, it's a little bit hard to time it perfectly. Like right here, I should have Wave of Terror the range creep, but unfortunately, Wave of Terror's cooldown is a little bit too long. So maybe I needed to be a little bit more careful about how I used it, but I felt relatively comfortable trading with Hoodwink. Here's Hoodwink's armor. It's higher than mine at 5. She also has a lot more damage than me. But here I am hitting level 2. And this is the other thing that's actually pretty strong about Venge and has always been pretty strong about Venge. And that is that he should have changed targets a lot earlier. This was a very easy kill. Yeah, we should have hit the Hoodwink earlier there. And so this is probably one of the stronger things about Venge is that she actually has 2 nukes. And she's always had this, but it feels a little bit better knowing that that you can have both, and it's actually pretty low mana cost. Like, again, Wave of Terror is effectively a free skill, so the fact that I can cast it multiple times in the laning stage and be semi-effective and harassing my opponents and still not have used a single mango yet is a pretty good advantage in my opinion. So I was pretty happy once I realized this, and sometimes IceFrog does this. He's like, here, have 10 damage, and people are like, oh shit, that skill, you're right, that skill is actually pretty effective at trading hits, and it's better now for last hitting, which is going to make me more competitive. Like, because what happens often in offlane situations, and you can't see this right now because unfortunately the creep wave is where it is, but normally what happens is a creep wave meets, and then you stand here and right click your enemy hero and you run away, and that pulls these 3 creeps and they go on the range creep. So what ends up happening is the Shadow Fiend is going to be standing over here and his creep's about to be denied. And then what you want to be able to do is use a spell to guarantee that last hit, because you have to stay farther away, because like the creep wave is in a weird spot. You're usually back here contesting the range creep. So basically what allows me to do is make sure that I can get a last hit. Drow knew he was dead here, so very wisely he committed to trying to kill the Hoodwink. Got some nice damage into me. Level 3, I think I got Vengeance Aura. I did, yeah. Vengeance Aura is significantly worse than it was before. It did get buffed in the most recent patch by buffing the base damage up to 11. See it. I should have Wave of Terror there, but I was zoned out, I think. But Vengeance Aura is not very good right now, guys. It is 11% damage. That's okay. It's giving me 6 damage. It's giving Drow about 7. It's okay, but it is not worth rushing. I don't think it's worth getting at level 2. I think you should, as a 5, you should pretty much always get Wave of Terror and Magic Missile. If I'm a core and I'm last hitting, then getting Vengeance Aura earlier is probably fine, because it's, again, going to help you last hit, and 6 damage is a lot when fighting your opponent. Much like how Slaughter getting kind of messed up here. And I will move over at times and go for pressure. I didn't do a very good job contesting runes, but either way, Venge and Drow are pretty classically a good dual lane anyways. Like, the aura before was obviously better for Drow because it would give her more agility and more attack range, which is pretty solid. But frankly, this one's about as good anyways in terms of the laning stage. The biggest negative is that she doesn't just get a little bit more armor than she used to, but that's about it. This guy should have walked here and pulled the creep wave, but I don't know, he was playing kind of weird. So, and now I'm getting more points in Magic Missile, and that's because I'm basically functioning a little bit closer to a nuker. If we take a look at how my skills scale here, Wave of Terror gets 20 damage per level, lowers the cooldown by 2 seconds, goes up 5 mana cost, and lowers the on armor by an extra 1. It's effectively a very good 1-point wonder skill. It's very, very good by itself. You do not need to max this skill out, in my opinion, for it to be effective. The best thing about lowering the cooldown is lowering the duration. Or sorry, the cooldown, and increasing the armor reduction. The damage and all that stuff is pretty moderate, but either way, just increasing the amount of damage, or the armor reduction and the cooldown is good, but it's fine by itself. So with that, I decided to skill more Magic Missile, again, to help make up for the fact that Venge is a little bit of a weak lane dominator. She works out effectively in this game generally, just because the matchups are nice to pair with Draw Ranger, and swap is really effective, but don't assume that you are the strongest 5. You absolutely are not. There's a lot of 5s that are just straight up a lot stronger than you, who can better defend themselves and also have AoE. It's definitely one of the issues with Venge. Against like PLs or something like that, you're going to struggle a lot. So, maxing out Magic Missile. I probably should have contested the Bounty Rune. I didn't do a good job on that, unfortunately, but I was focused on the pull, which is probably not worth what I should have done. I could have gone back and maybe stacked the small camp and pulled that as well, but I was a little bit more concerned about them running at my Drow. Drow is a bit of a weak hero to being ran at. I actually liked how she got Gust in the laning stage. Most Drows don't do this, and that's because they want their multi-shot to be maxed out as soon as possible, and then they use it to jungle. And then if she has 1 less point in multi-shot, the cooldown's longer, the damage is less. All that stuff really adds up. I did a single pull here. Not very good for denying my opponent's experience, but is very good for giving me a little bit of experience, and for denying just a little bit of experience for my opponents. I saw they're running at my Drow, so I decided to run over again. And then bought boots when available. This looked a little bit iffy. Gonna stun the Slardar here, because he is clearly the guy most in front. Gust pretty certainly saved my life here, which is very nice, because me staying alive means they get less gold. And because they are both run at you heroes, this makes a lot of sense. So now my salve to get back healed up. Part of the reason I wanted to buy mangoes as well is because Venge's base regen is pretty weak for a 5 position. It's only like 2.5 or something like that. So I wanted to make sure that I had better stability in terms of being able to take damage from my opponents and trade hits. Should have gone that last hit, but I did not. So that's why I went like lots of regen with 2 mangoes. I also brought myself more tangos almost immediately because I wanted to continue to trade with my opponents. If you don't plan for this on a hero that's not as amazing as at trading, then it's going to cause you some issues. They just put a ward right there. I used this because I knew that she had a raindrop, and that 70 damage is enough to proc a raindrop. So it's basically like amazing to have magic, or to have Wave of Terror against a raindrop or against Clarity Breaking. We kind of wanted to fight here or something. This guy I figured we could kill pretty easily. I was very surprised that he turned. He should have ran for his life. I didn't really need to stun him there, but I did. And I got the kill, which is nice. So now we're at 2, 0, and 1. I also skilled another point in Magic Missile. I did this right before we fought, which contributes even more damage, a little bit more stun duration, that kind of thing. Cast range going up a tiny bit is not terrible. I think I should have left the Magic Missile levels at 3, personally, It is a pretty good nuke, dealing up to like 360 damage, but I had to run over here. I wanted to get this last hit, but it's very important that I try to help. Oh, he looks so dead. I use Wave of Terror because I can break the his raindrop one more time, but bit of a bummer there. I wanted to keep the Fairy Trinket, but I really shouldn't. It should go to like Sky or Tide. This looks like a pretty easy kill to me. I maybe should have Wave of Terror first. This guy kept playing up really far. This was kind of a weird MMR game, by the way. There was like a mix of like Divines and Immortals. I'm running left because it's going to buy me time for my Drow to get here. Tide ended up rotating over to gank, which was nice of him. I used a Mango unnecessarily, but ultimately the important thing is that we got a kill, which was nice. And now I'm going to move over into an aggressive playstyle. Now I started building Vlad's this game because Vlad's traditionally works really well with Venge. Venge already gives a damage bonus to your team, so having further damage bonus with Vlad's to help you push is a really good way to play Dota. I tried to break his clarity here, but I misanticipated, which I thought he was going to retreat more. We probably could have killed that guy actually if Tide was with me. It could have swapped and stunned him, but it didn't go. Didn't have the opportunity. Keep in mind, Nether swap has also been changed again. It is old swap, basically swaps one person and goes on cooldown. It doesn't have 2 charges anymore. I was able to stack this camp. Ideally would have done more, but was only able to do 1. I also bought Tranquil Boots. This might be a little weird to you guys because you might be thinking like, hey, why not get Arcane Boots so you can spam your spells more? Well, you don't really need to do that because outside of Nether swap, you're only casting Magic Missile basically. Again, Wave of Terror cooldown the mana cost is really not that high. The fact that he got fogged and then cast it on me revealed that they had a ward here, which is why I dewarded this immediately afterwards, but I did have to wait till it went away because I knew running over here by myself was likely to be negative. And he's got vision of me right now, so I basically am just anticipating this moment. How much time do we have left? I got it. Ooh, we're gonna have to speed this up. I started this a little bit later than I should have, sorry. I gotta play a qualifiers match. So here's the sentry looking for the ward. I ended up finding it. Then they end up ganking the Drow. I actually couldn't believe that she was alive. I thought I swapped too late. And here is our Skeleton King. Looks like his ulti's gonna get popped, but he just hadn't skilled it yet. Actually, he was being a little greedy. So we end up getting a kill on him, which was really, really big. So now we just need to kill everything under the tower. So the reason you buy Tranquil Boots is because you don't need mana that bad on Vengeful Spirit. You can get away with it with lots of other things. Very surprised about him doing this. This was really weird. That made it better looking. But yeah, Raindrop for a little bit of mana regen and more survivability to get lots of spells off. Tranquil Boots so that I have regen. I should have been able to kill that, but I messed it up. I'm going to plant the ward as I run back. Oh, he instantly dewards it. Bummer. That was kind of my fault. I'm just going to run to the right because I don't really want to engage them here. Again, working on Vlad's. One of the downsides to buying Vlad's as a 5 is that if you are buying the correct amount of sentry wards, that you are not going to have enough money to buy a Vlad's, basically, for a long time. And that's kind of something I struggled with this game. Vlad's is really expensive right now, $27.50. This is very costly for a support item. A lot of items that supports buy are like Glimmer Cape or Force Staff, like sub 2,000 gold items. And the other issue that I basically forgot about is that you don't get an illusion anymore when you die on Venge unless you own Ags, which is a really expensive item. Just doing a swap here under tower, pretty easy with Skywrath Mage, and with my stun being highly leveled. It's enough stun duration that it'll combo really easily with Sky. So, if I buy Vlad's, the reason Vlad's was cool is because not only does it function well with your hero, it still does, but the fact was before, even if you die, your illusion comes back and your illusion gives off Vlad's aura. So basically your Vlad's aura was always there, but now that's partially missing. I wanted to kill SF here. I didn't know that they were going to come over and spot us, but... So Vlad's is technically not as good as it used to be on Venge, because if you do die, then the aura is gone. So there's probably better items to buy. And initially I thought like maybe Glimmer Cape or something like the standard is probably right. I thought about going on him, but he backed up just in time. He's a little scared. He shouldn't be scared. I actually do almost have swap, excuse me. And while like Buckler and Ring of Basilius are still pretty solid for my hero, I think the real item that I should buy is Drum of Endurance. And I thought about this after the match, basically. Drum is not that expensive. The buildup is really easy for support. Windlace, Belt of Giant Strength are great early game items. This is 120 HP. It's an expensive fluffy hat, basically. Very expensive fluffy hat. That's one downside to it. But when you finish Drum, it gives you a 20 movement speed aura for you and your allies, which is really good as a support. And I can use charges to help you guys get kills, get into position, escape, initiate, everything, all that good stuff. So I definitely should have gone something like Drum instead. Much cheaper than Vlad's and better early game impact, basically. So now we scouted that they had a lot of Ancients, and a lot of Ancients. This is a lot of fucking Ancients. We can actually do these because we have Tide and we have Bristle and Drow, actually, all three of these. So I told my team, we're winning right now, come over here and we're going to contest these Ancients. They're going to contest them too, and ideally we would have like wards and sentries and stuff like that, but certainly want to sit here and posture. I swapped him because I didn't want him to get blown up right at the start of the fight. Unfortunately, he did get hit by that. This is probably just going to pick off the SK ulti, which is not good for our team. I'm going to have to fight this guy to protect this guy a little bit here. Little wave of terror kill. Got feared to the left, which is a little bad. I'm going to get chain stunned here. Unfortunately, this guy's phased, so he's able to chase me down. But the fight is looking relatively good. The fact that Skye is still alive is a pretty big deal. And Bristle has finally gotten here as well, so this is really nicely done by Skywrath Mage. Roche ends up killing him, so we don't lose anything there. And then Anchor Smash just blows those guys up, which I thought was pretty funny, I gotta say. Who's got the int item? Is it Bristle? Okay, Bristle got the Fairy's Trinket. Bristle was the highest MMR in the game, actually. And now, because we won a big team fight, and that was definitely a good fight for us. Got a big gold advantage, got lots of experience. Now we can definitely take the Ancient stack. So their supports that spent time stacking this aren't going to get this advantage anymore. Because it's going to be pretty easy for Bristle to clean this up. Bristle and the Tide. So this is great. Really good for us. I'm respawning, so I went top because they were busy with the Ancients. It's unlikely that I would be pressured in this lane. It's not like, normally it's safe to go to this lane when it's nighttime because it's likely that they are going to react to it. But because they're all in the area, I'm just going to push the lane out. I'm going to help by killing the creep wave. I'm also maxing out Wave of Terror next because I want to use it to help my allies deal more damage. It's going to lower armor, which means Bristleback's Quills do more damage, Tide's Anchor Smash does more damage, and right-click attacks from Drow will be better as well. Ooh, that was a really easy kill. Here's another cool thing about our lineup that was really cool. Our lineup was actually really synergistic. Tide mid is not a good thing, but he also has armor reduction with Gush. So armor reduction here with Wave of Terror, and armor reduction here. So we have like a bunch of armor reduction, a lot of physical damage, but also a nice mix of magic. Having Skye as a 4, I think was actually pretty cool because it really helped us be more effective there. Now Tide bought Ags, which is fine. AoE minus armor is here. This is really crucial what I did. Let me go back and watch that again. Moving over to this area of the map. And then SF gets ultied. Now this doesn't look great for SF necessarily because Bristle might be facing... I don't know if Bristle's facing a little bit to the left or not, but it's very likely that SF's going to get a solo kill here, and he probably blinked for this. He did. Whenever SF plays like Blink Dagger Yules, it's really important that he gets like some crucial kills with these. So the fact that I was here in time to swap the SF to interrupt his ulti basically buys us time. And I stunned him again, and even though I got really messed up by the Chain Frost, this was still like a really crucial point in the game. Because SF got all of this net worth, and he ended up using it, but we ended up killing him before I died, and also before no other teammate of mine died. So this is really effective for us. Raindrops bought me some time, maxed out Wave of Terror. I feel like the reason Magic Missile didn't need to be maxed personally is because I would have liked at this point to have Vengeance Aura maxed a little earlier, because now's the part where we start deathballing. But with that said, like, Magic Missile cast range is nice, and being able to win these early engagements is more likely with Magic Missile levels, so I don't know. Anyways, I'm almost done with my Vlads, but unfortunately what happened was at some point Tide was like, I'm rich, let's buy a Vlads. So he bought Vlads, so then we ended up having double Vlads, which is a big bummer. But anyways, I'm trying to do the right thing, which is buying a lot of Sentry Wards. As a 5, you need to do that to help ensure that your opponents don't have vision, because then it's harder for them to win team fights. If they have weaker vision, then they don't necessarily know where you are, and it's easier for you to force engagements that are advantageous to you. Against good players, and this was a ranked match, and I was about 6,000 MMR, 6,030 MMR at the start of this game. Not everybody was. The MMRs were really spread. But basically, we want to ensure that that they don't see us coming when we initiate. Here's a good example of that. We pop a smoke. They probably don't have a ward. We're moving over to go for the shrine to make sure they don't get experience at 20 minutes, but also maybe to get a kill as well. It's kind of dangerous to do this without a ward. It looks like most of their heroes were mid anyways, so this is fine. We'll just take the shrine really quick. And hypothetically, normally, we kind of did this backwards. Playing over here was really weird, but we had a gold advantage and there were ancients and we had good ancient clears. So it felt actually kind of okay for us to play in this way. And now I'm kind of sitting here like, man, I'd really like to finish Vlad's, but in the same vein, all that I need to do to win this game is to buy a lot of sentry wards and make sure that they don't have any map control. So, look kind of iffy for our tide here, but if that bounced a tide, that would have been a big bummer. So, we had a little fight. We used Ravage. They ran away, though. So I felt semi-comfortable going for... Did we rosh here or a little bit later? I think we roshed here. Yeah, we did. Again, we have really good rosh taking capabilities because we do have a lot of minus armor. Rosh is going to be pretty armor reduced. For Goo, minus 11 armor, and then Drow Ranger here, and then minus 6 armor here. So I'm helping out on this. It's pretty easy for us to take this even though Ravage was down, just because their lineup is certainly behind us. We definitely felt like we had a net worth advantage. If we were able to play in this area, it's because we had a gold advantage. And now we're kind of just going to move into like Death Ball mode because we've got Aegis already. We have Drow Ranger. We have Vengeance, Vengeful Spirit. We have a lot of pushing basically. I'm not going to go crazy pressuring this tower, for example, but I certainly want to. I was trying to swap him there. If I get a swap off, we maybe can kill. Just need to kill this wave so that they can't go push another one. Didn't have to commit to that, but it was fine to do that if I was there already. And now I'm just going to stand around and give my team 18% bonus damage. I think I have my Vlads coming at this point. And again, this is a bit of like a, we kind of crushed the game and we're winning circumstance, and we had a cool draft, but if you have the right circumstance, I haven't done an early 20-minute push like this in a long time, honestly. And then I looked and I was like, Tide already has Vlads, fuck. So actually completing this was bad because we actually lost 2 armor aura that I previously had. It's kind of funny. And having like Bristle and Tide in the front is just really effective. I did throw my stun, or swap him to get that kill, then I get ultied, unfortunately. But on the bright side, the rest of the fight still looked okay. Slardar gets killed. And now they're going to try to engage on us. Another hero kill is great though. And with that tower kill, now we got a Rax destroyed. What's Bristle doing? I like the Treads Vanguard Soul Ring Wand. I like that he bought a lot of HP items to combo with the Eternal Shroud. You do need to mix the two. Eternal Shroud is certainly a decent build on Bristle, but you shouldn't go like that insane. I think some people overplay the spell lifesteal. It's good to get some, but you can't get too much or it's not very good. We ended up getting a kill on the Slaughter in the mid lane. I'm going to grab the Invis Rune. No, JK. I checked for bounties. They weren't actually there. Somebody had grabbed them before. Buying more sentries and things. I got Nether Stall to offset some of the magic damage. Now I'm just looking for D-wards quick. But because we're already pushing, I'm just going to head to the mid lane. Now we're going to do the same thing again. Slowly hitting buildings. Tanky guys in the front. I want to give vision to my team. For some reason, he didn't hit me twice. Oh, it's probably because he was scared I was going to swap him. I wasn't going to, but I definitely should have. If you do want to swap somebody with a Blink Dagger, you always got to use Wave of Terror first. Wave of Terror them, and then swap them out. I don't want to swap this guy because he's going to have his ulti. Here I am trying to do it. Wave of Terror, but I didn't have vision, so no swap there. But either way, we're buying time. They're getting denies on towers, but it doesn't matter. I end up getting the stun before he uses, which is good. Unfortunately, I'm going to die, but I started the fight in a fairly favorable way. And SF is by far the highest damage to squishy ratio, meaning he's very killable for sure. Ravage barely in time to survive, and then Drow cleaning up in a nice way, which was really good. So from here, basically, it's straightforward, right? We have a huge gold advantage. We're in their base pushing. They aren't increasing their net worth by very much. If we do get wiped in a team fight, it's really dangerous. But because we had a really nice net worth advantage, I really wasn't too concerned about losing here. Oh, I gotta click this. Sorry, guys. One second. Doing now. Sorry, guys. One second. I mean, the game is effectively over anyways, but... what did I... Did I not save my password? I don't remember. Oops. And then I bought a cloak going for Glimmer Cape next, basically. But the rest of this match is pretty straightforward, basically. I'm gonna cut this a little short because I do have to go. But yeah, this is this is Vengeful Spirit support, basically. You need to win your laning stage a little bit, but you don't have to crush it, but it is helpful to crush it. Lane ideally with a hero that can really profit from your right-click damage. Having a range hero is generally better because with your stun and your vision from Wave of Terror, you can definitely help chase an advantage against people and out-trade them because they have less armor than you. So yeah, that is Vengeful Spirit support. You can do this crazy kind of pushing stuff, but if not, I would just buy other traditional items. Glimmer Cape, Force Staff, Vlad's, maybe a Blink Dagger, maybe an Ags if I'm having a really good game. You could buy the Ags Shard perhaps because it would lower your opponent's right-click damage. You wouldn't use it much for right-clicking yourself, but largely you are a swap machine. You're waiting to save allies or that are getting gone on to buy them time like cores, or you are swapping important high damage, squishier heroes on the enemy team out of position like Shadow Fiend or other spellcasters like Lina or other squishy guys. If it's like a Wraith King, I don't want to swap him out of position because he's got his ulti, you know. If it's Slardar, I don't really want to swap him out of position, especially if he has a BKB. But because we had advantage, I could basically do anybody with swap, and we would likely get killed. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later. Goodbye.